As a young person, how do I balance my own independence with honoring my parents? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hello everybody and welcome to the Truth Booth. It's been a long time since I did an Ask Me Tuesday, but here I am back again. I think this pandemic has changed life for a lot of people, and I'm one of those. I've been kind of out of commission for a little bit. If you missed my video on where I was for a few weeks suffering with COVID, and if you want to know more about what it's like to be somebody who has COVID at home, look up my video on that. But we're going to return to Ask Me Tuesday this week and get back on track with it. So I have questions that you've sent in that I put into a little pot, and today I'm going to draw one of those out and try to answer it as best as I can. How do you balance independence in early adult life with keeping a close and accountable relationship with your parents? That's a great question. I have experienced trying to keep this balance with my 4 grown children and seeing how that was a little bit of a struggle, actually on both our parts, not just on their part, but on my part too. And I do remember this time in my life with my own parents, trying to be independent, trying to develop my own ways of thinking, my own ways of doing things, my own opinions, but wanting to keep that relationship tight with parents. First of all, kudos to you, whoever wrote this, for wanting and desiring a good relationship with your parents. I think that is amazing. And because of that, I think you're going to work this out. But I will tell you, there is no magic answer. There's really no magic answer. This is something that you and your parents are just going to have to learn in this awkward stage of give and take during this time. But the advice I would give is that you learn to talk it over with your parents. And probably in the middle of that tension and something that's just happened that makes us uncomfortable, or maybe made one of us say something that we wish we wouldn't have said, that's maybe not the best time to do that. But if you will make a time with your parents, pray for and take an opportune time to discuss the awkwardness of this, to discuss with them. And we've got a good relationship and I want to maintain that relationship, but have you sensed that there's this awkwardness as I'm getting older and kind of coming out on my own and wanting to express my own ideas and opinions, or whatever it is that's causing the tension? Talk about it. And maybe you're not in the habit of talking like that with your parents, but you can still venture in and talk about that. But to me, that was the most successful thing. I remember with my daughters, this was especially difficult because of them maybe coming back into my household after they'd been out of my household. In particular, our oldest daughter, Amy, was an adult and had been living on her own. And then we were in missions together, and she came back in to my household. Well, actually, we moved into a household together in a foreign country, and we had to have many conversations like that, because it's difficult. Because on the parents' end, it is difficult to have been raising this child who is now an adult, and it seems like it would be such an easy thing to do. I remember talking to myself all the time that my kids were growing up and saying, like, I'm not going to be like that. I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to cut those apron strings. I am going to release them. I am going to nudge them out of the nest. But when it comes down to it, it is difficult. It's difficult that we're doing the things a different way, or we have a different opinion about things, or that emotions get a little heightened when we talk about certain things. So the best thing to do is to talk about it. If that ends up being a dead-end road, that you just don't have the kind of relationship that you can talk about it, then you just need to pray about it. Pray about the little details that make that uncomfortable, and ask God how you can make that work for you and your parents. Because what you don't want to do is start sensing tension there, and then you kind of make up your mind to kind of avoid the tension, so you avoid them. I'm telling you, that's only going to create more tension. It's going to create your parents worrying more about you, wondering why you're not communicating, wondering why you're not around. So that's the poor choice. The better choice is to talk it over and be willing to work it through, because it is going to take time to strike that balance of respect for one another And I think that's what it is you respecting that your parents do something differently than you or think about it differently than you, and them respecting that in you too. I also don't think that independence means just shutting off your parents' voice. And in this day and age of independence in our country, I think that young people are maybe motivated and persuaded by other young people that the best thing to do is just to cut that off because you're your own person. They don't have ruling over you. They don't understand your life. That's not the road to go down either, because I think you still need to be open to wiser counsel and opinions and be able to take those opinions with maturity and not with immaturity that would say like, oh, I just don't want to listen to that, but that would consider and pray about and think about and meditate on things that your parents are saying. Why are they saying it? Usually parents know you pretty well, even though you don't want to think they do. Usually they do. But I would say kudos to this person because you want a relationship with your parents, but you want to strike out and figure out your own independence and maintain that independence too. And I would just say the road might be bumpy, but it's worth traveling down, and just let it be bumpy for a while. Just let it be bumpy. Just know that it's going to be uncomfortable. Have some open communication if you can. Tell not the open communications like, I need you to do this because you make me feel like that. No, that usually gets nowhere, right? And that's very selfish. But have the kind of communication that is like, I want this to work. How can we make this work? What are you feeling like? Can I hear what you're feeling like? What is your difficulty in like letting go of me as your child? That's got to be difficult. What does that feel like? Let me tell you what it feels like for me too. I have this struggle inside because I want a relationship with you, but I don't want that to mean that I have to do everything the way you think I should do it or something like that. Bringing the Bible into it. The Bible does tell us to honor our mother and father, and that's something you really need to think about and pray about. But beyond that, there's just this overlying flood of verses that are telling us, and content that is telling us to honor one another, not just our parents, but one another as Christians, to honor one another, to love one another, to sacrifice for one another, to lay our life down for one another, to raise up the other as better than ourselves, to esteem one another, to encourage one another. So I think that you got to take all those Bible verses with the honor my parents and approach this kind of thing with that love, respect, honor, willing to sacrifice. We live in a country where hanging on to our independence is like one of the most important things to us. Well, that's not biblical. Biblical community is a picture of interdependence. And so when it comes to our parents, we need to remember that God placed them in your life for a reason. God has them speaking into your life for a reason. So ask God what those reasons are. Approach your parents and let them know how much you love them and how much you want relationship with them, and be willing to ride that bumpy ride until you figure it out and work it out together. I hope that answers your question, and I hope that if you're new here, you'll kind of peruse my other Ask Me Tuesday questions and view them, and make sure that you give a comment and that you give a like on this video, and also that you subscribe to my channel. Hope to see you next time.